What's up, everybody? Ryan here. Looks like winter is here. December 1st. A big old snowstorm coming, I guess. So we're gonna go do a heat exchanger this morning. So come along with us and check it out. Morning.
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
Good. How are you, bud?
Good.
What kind of heat exchanger we got here? It's little.
York unit, yes, very little.
Let's take a look at it.
All right.
Well, isn't that cute? All right. Well, let's get to it. All right. That's the heat exchanger. This is the small little York we're gonna do the heat exchanger on today. Up 4 flights through a roof hatch. James and I are on it. So we're gonna rip this thing apart. I don't know if I'm gonna show you every last step, but we'll get some good footage and get this thing taken apart. All right, let's get started. All right, everybody, as you can see, we've got all the panels off. We've got the condenser coil broke free so we can get to this side. Just because it's a small heat exchanger doesn't mean it's any easier on these Yorks. So we got everything taken apart. What I'm gonna do now is disconnect the gas line. I'm gonna get the burners pulled out, get the combustion blower out while James starts taking screws apart. That way we can pull this sidewall over and pull this thing out. Take these 2 screws out, this whole burner assembly will come right out.
You have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, we got our combustion blower out, and you can hear that. It doesn't sound too hot. All right, James is getting all the screws out from the side, and then we still have the screws to take out on this side. So let's go ahead and get this insulation ripped off. Hopefully these screw heads aren't so rusted that I gotta grind them off, but we'll see. Keep our fingers crossed. As I got this insulation out, you're gonna wanna try to keep this nice, or tuck it off, stick it in the blower, because we're gonna put that back in. But what we got here is 6 screws that go right here, and these are the ones that usually rust out. These don't look too bad, so be careful pulling those out. Make sure you get on them real good, because if you round them off, you're going to be grabbing your grinder. We also have these screws to remove here. All right, to get these other screws out, you're going to want to get your extension, because you got to go back and under the line set to get to them. So we got everything out over here. All right, so just kind of get under one edge here. Start prying up. Should come loose. There we go. And that's that. A lot of times these will rust out. So if you are gonna write up to quote this, might be in your best interest sometimes to pull that insulation, make sure this thing isn't rotted through. But this one's in good shape, so we're good to go. Next step, remove these screws right on top. James got some of them out already. There we go. So we got all those out. All right, guys, I'm about to jump up in here and show you the other screws, but there's the hole. And as you can see, it's pretty substantial. Next thing we're gonna do Just hop up on top. We're gonna remove some screws that are down in here now. Now these are the most difficult to get to, especially on a bigger unit. Luckily for us, this 2-tube heat exchanger, we can get to these. And then they actually continue through to the burner compartment, and you got to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them out. So I'll get these ones removed first, and then we'll go around to the front. Now this one here butts right up against this front plate, and this is the most difficult screw to get out of this whole heat exchanger. So I'm gonna have James find me my 5/16 wrench. That's usually how I get those out. Thanks. Well, we finally got that screw out. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 out. We're gonna move along to the front. It's gonna be this one here and this one here. Those ride right along that edge of the heat exchanger. Let that one there, that one there. And I'm gonna give everything a look here and make sure we don't have any other screws holding us up. I believe this one here has to come out. Almost every time I do one of these, we go to yank it out and I find, oh, there's one screw we have missed, but I think we're in good shape. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is yank up on this top piece and break that loose. Let me go ahead and hop up here, show you how to get this out. All right, we got her broke loose. We got the top loose here. We got the bottom loose, and there are no screws holding us in there. So I try to get this out without ripping up as much insulation as possible, but just the way these are designed, I pull this one side as far over as I can, and whatever insulation gets ripped up, you either cut it out or tape it up. So oh yeah, look at that seam. Thank you, James. All right, guys, and basically this is what you're left with. And as you can see, a little ripped up, but not too bad, and it's to be expected. They build these units around the heat exchanger, so I don't know if they were ever meant to be replaced or what, but look at here. This whole seam is rotting out. Yeah, so good find on this one. Definitely shot. I got this unit completely ripped apart. I got all my panels here. All our screws, I keep them right in the blower compartment. I've seen other guys change these. They rip this whole section out. You don't need to do that. In fact, it's more of a pain in the ass to do that than to do it this way. I think this is the best way to do it. So one thing you definitely don't want to do when you're replacing these is rip this insulation out here, because when you do, that insulation actually acts as a barrier for the supply air. And if you rip that out, then the air from the blower gets in here. It causes the flames to roll out. I did that one time. I had to take high temp silicone. I had to seal up all around this just to get that thing to stop rolling out from the blower air. Our next step here is to get this plate put on, get our bolts in place. That's gonna mount our burner assembly in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that taken care of, and we're gonna start putting this thing back together. Got our burner plate in place, and the 2 studs are gonna hold the burner assembly. Let's go ahead and snug these up. The one thing to note here is it does indicate up. You want to make sure this plate's properly installed. So this is the bottom of the heat exchanger, that's the top, so make sure that plate's in the way they want it. All right, guys, now's the opportunity to brush everything out. I got to get one of those fancy blowers that I see everyone else got. I know Rick has one, and Vlogger has one, but I try to brush everything out this way because, as you can see, the supply duct is right over there. You don't want all this garbage in there, but brush everything out, get it all cleaned up. That's good enough for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna put this heat exchanger back in place. It's gonna fall right on this lip here, and then it's kind of a bit of a chore to get it to fall right into place here, but we'll get it. So that's the next step. See those studs?
Yep.
Start pulling them your way. Right there. Stop. That's all right. Once we all right guys, we got it almost in place. I see a couple of screw holes are lining up down there, so I'm going to start putting some screws in, and as you put the screws in, it should line everything right up. Battery over there, will you? Should be under my gloves. All right, now we're getting somewhere. All right, so now we've got all those screws along the edge. I'm gonna throw these screws in the top. There we go. All right, go ahead and line your holes up and let her rip. All right guys, I got all the screws here, I got all the screws down here, so now I'm gonna have James start putting all the screws back in the sides. So I'll have him put the support screws in, get this whole side screwed back on. Let me get this snow out of here, and that's gonna be that. All right guys, I'm gonna start doing the burners and the combustion blower. These are pretty simple, just kind of loosen it up and burners fall right out. There you go. Burners, you get a new flame sensor and igniter put in there. New flame sensor, new igniter. All right, so basically what happens is your pilot valve on the gas valve ignites this pilot tube, and then it just, you know, ignites all the way across. Your flame sensor recognizes that flame, and then it allows the main valve on the gas valve to open through your orifices, and your main burners light. We got our burners, and these York burners, they come wrapped in a paper towel, so when it's cold you can blow your nose, and there you go. I just loosened up one side of this bracket, which is going to allow me to kind of wiggle that thing in there. There's one. Get your other one, get it on the orifice, and you should be able to just line them right back up. A couple of screws here in the end, that's going to lock them in. All right, so that's that. New burners, new flame sensor and igniter, and we should be good to go with this. All right, next step, replace this combustion blower. So we got our new motor here, we got our old one. Check the voltages, make sure they're good. We got a 208 230, we got a 208 230, so we're all set. We got to get this squirrel cage off, and we got to get this mounting bracket off. Get this wheel off, and that'll start the process. There we go, and it came right off, so we're good to go there. Now these 4 nuts got to come off of these studs. They'll either come off or break off, and if so, you just got to get new nuts. But all right, I was able to get all the nuts and washers off of there, so basically this plate's going to come right off. They supplied a packet of the spacers. So there's the new motor. You put your spacers back on, just like so. Just like that. Now that we've got that in place, go ahead and put on all your lock washers and then your nuts, and tighten everything down. Get your squirrel cage out, make sure it's the right direction. So we've got the right blower wheel here. Let's place it on there, and then what I normally do is just lift it up slightly above those top of those studs there, because you're gonna have another plate here and you don't want the blower wheel way up high. It'll be rubbing on the top. So I just place it right about there. I keep about 1/8 of an inch of the shaft up above the lock nut on the squirrel cage, and you should be good. But once we put this back in, we'll spin it and make sure it's not rubbing. And there's 2. No rubbing, we're good to go. Next thing I'm gonna do before I put this collector box back in place is I'm gonna run a bead of high temp silicone in here just to seal it up as good as we can. I got a new ignition control here. I'm gonna go ahead and mount that and get that replaced, and then we'll be good. I've got my silicone in there as good as I can. It's soaking wet, so I've got it sealed up as good as we can. Once it fires, it should cure pretty quick. I got a new screw in here, that way it's mounted nice, looks good, and I got it swapped out. I got all my screws in here, got all my screws in here. I'm gonna get the rest of the screws run around along each side, and then I'm gonna seal this all up with high temp. So I've got the collector box back in place. I've got the high temp on there as good as I can get it. It's all wet, so I'm gonna go ahead and stuff that insulation back on top of here that I referenced when we took this off. Just you can see it doesn't really do a whole lot. The insulation on these refrigeration lines is cooked anyway, but I'm gonna stuff it back in place. We're gonna get these burners and combustion blower in place. Got this ratty old insulation put back in place. Next thing I'm gonna do is get the combustion blower in, and then a burner assembly. All right, I got all my screws in. I got no rubbing, so we're good to go there. Just tuck these wires out of the way for now. All right, before I stick that in, that burner assembly is gonna fall and land right on these 2 studs. So it'll just slide in there, and 2 screws will hold it in place. When you stick these in, you wanna make sure you don't bunch up that insulation. It can get around that pilot tubing, that carryover tube, and if it's all bunched up around it, it won't light right, and it cause you some problems. So make sure that you lift it up, you get it up over that insulation, you should be in good shape. And it's back in. We got all the panels back on. We got the lid, we got the condenser fan motor in place and wired up. I've got my manometer hooked up to the gas valve. I let them know we were about to fire it up. They got the fire suppression system, fire alarm put in test. I used a couple of the panels here to block off the supply duct, but as you can see, we've got a smoke detector tube right here, so I wanted to definitely make sure that they had this system in test. Other than that, we are gonna be good to fire this thing up. Yeah, we're at 3.8. I'm gonna lower that down a hair, but I'm just gonna let it burn off for now. Yeah, let's see how much smoke we get. Oh, it stinks a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and let this thing burn. I'm gonna get that gas pressure adjusted down to 3.5. You can see here we're at 3.8. A little higher than I like, so I'm gonna go ahead and back that down. All right, guys, we're right at 3.49. Close enough for me. I'm gonna get the manometer, take it off, and get the panel put on here. That way the wind isn't disrupting our flame. And in the meantime, we're gonna let it burn off and we're gonna go ahead and clean up all our mess. Enjoying the fruits of our labor. Typical young helper on his phone all the time.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys, we got the manometer disconnected. We've got our cover put back in place. We're just gonna continue to let this thing exhaust outside. Make sure it doesn't stink or anything like that. Plus it gives us a nice warming station here. So we're gonna get everything cleaned up and get it over by the roof hatch, button this unit up, and we're gonna move on to the next one. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this one. Little tiny York in the middle heat exchanger replacement. I appreciate you guys watching the videos. Please hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Hit that bell icon. That'll notify you anytime I got a new video coming out. Hit like, leave me a comment. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next one.